Hello and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms, buildings, and how both get built. I'm Patience Jones, your co-host. With me is Brian Jones.
Your other host.
Thank you for joining us.
So, if you've ever been to an architect's website, you've inevitably been to their About page. And if you've been to 5 architects' websites, you've been to all the About pages of those websites, you may have noticed a trend among them, which is that 1, they sound very similar, and 2, they may or may not be very engaging. So on today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about how to write a position statement for your firm that isn't boring.
And that also differentiates you from every other firm out there.
Very critical.
Yes.
So from a writing perspective, Patience, why do you think that we have kind of ended up here professionally, where we see so much similarity among firm mission statements?
I think it's a couple of things. I think it's looking at other firms, ones that we feel are successful, and saying, well, they were successful and that's what they say, so I should talk about myself that way too. I think part of it is writing is complicated. It's a challenge. And most architects have not been trained as professional writers, which is not surprising because they've been trained as professional architects. But when you're trying to do it yourself, it's just way more difficult. You know, like I couldn't design a building. So that's number 2. Number 3, I think, is a fear of either undercommitting or overcommitting. So if you use words that are high level and generic, like excellence, that's hard to measure. It's hard to dispute. It sounds good. So let's use that, because we don't really know how to think about what are the actual specific things that make us different from somebody else. No. And we want to be seen, if the other firm is seen as excellent and we don't say excellent, then are we saying that we're not excellent? And sure. I think that's where that comes from.
Well, let's back up here for 1 second and sort of define, what do we mean when we're saying a position statement?
Oh, it's got like such a horrible association with it, I feel like.
Tortured meetings, people sitting around.
Yeah, totally.
Thesauruses
like, let's have a retreat. Like, ugh. It really just is. I like to think of it more as like a differentiation statement. Mm-hmm. What is your firm about? How are you different from other firms, and why should somebody hire you? And who's the somebody who should be thinking about hiring you?
Yep. Why you for this client right now?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So when you say things like, we are a dynamic, collaborative firm committed to excellence in, across a wide range of industries.
Word salad.
Yeah. And so who is it that you're targeting? What do you do? Why should I hire you instead of the place next door? And if you don't give people reasons to hire you that are different from what your competitors are giving, the analysis of who should be hired will come down to the bottom line. So unless you tell people we are really good at this thing, or our approach is different because X, they will just look at, well, they're both excellent, they're both collaborative, they're both dynamic. Which one is cheaper?
Yep. That is 100% true. And really, and you don't want to go out of your way to offend people with your position statement, but somebody should reasonably look at it and say, that's not for me, that is for me. Like, they should be able to come to some understanding of they found somebody that is remotely good for what they are looking to have done.
I wish I could remember who said this, but somebody said, if the opposite could not be true in a reasonable firm, then it is not a differentiator. So what that means is no one in their right mind will say, we are not an excellent firm. We are not a collaborative firm. We are not a dynamic firm. So those things are not differentiators.
Yeah.
But if you were to say, for example, we do all of our drawings by hand. There are very good firms who might say, we don't do all of our drawings by hand. That's a differentiator.
Yeah.
Because it is a specific thing that is not something that every firm can claim or sound absurd.
So let's first start with what are some of the biggest mistakes that you have seen, like in crafting positioning statements?
Oh, the biggest one. Oh, it just like it kind of like still gives me chills a little bit. Somebody had taken a positioning statement from another firm and said, this is what we want to use. And so I do what I frequently do and went through each of the attributes and said, okay, give me a couple of examples of this attribute and a couple of examples of how you've, made real this attribute so that we can refer to them and bake them in. And as we went through the list, the firm partner was like, oh, yeah, no, actually that's not something we do. Yeah, no, we don't really think about things that way. And like 5 of the things in the 10 item list were not even things that they prioritized or did or had even thought about. They just thought, well, this sounds good on this site, so let's do it here. So I would say, first of all, don't copy. And secondly, if you're going to take something as inspiration, you have to really think about, does this apply to us? And I think it's really, really, really important to differentiate between aspirational and what is true right now. If you aim to be one of the largest firms in your region someday, you wouldn't say, today, we are one of the largest firms in the region.
Sure.
Because you're not. So similarly, if you have only started doing a particular kind of work 3 months ago, to say you are the most well-respected firm in the region for that work is probably an overstatement. And you want to make sure that you're not building your statement out around overstatements, because people can see right through them and they're not going to believe anything else that you say. The more you can give people concrete information in normal person language, the easier it will be for people to understand why they should hire you.
I mean, I think that you've stumbled onto one of my pain points in these is that I think there's a couple things professionally that happen is that sometimes architecture firms deprioritize words in the communication of their work because they believe that the images are able to convey everything that the project is. And if that were true, that would be amazing, but it's just not. People don't understand everything that it is that firms do. More importantly, the second thing that happens is that kind of in the inverse direction, in an effort to make the words sound unique and special, they go for the most unique and special words that they can find to the nth degree of tortured language and sentence structure and, questionable grammar to arrive at an outcome.
It's so horrifying because you can always tell when somebody was like sitting with a thesaurus or Googling like synonym for this word and picks one that's not quite right. And maybe actually what you need is to not use that word at all and to restructure the sentence so that you're saying the same thing, but completely differently. But instead it's like this forced academic exercise that just comes out sounding really stilted and weird and confusing. And I think that's another thing, is making sure that what you say on your about page is consistent with what you say everywhere else in your social media and your website. And by consistent, I don't mean the same. But if you say in your about statement that like your biggest thing is attention to detail, that you have this 60-step checklist that you use to ensure that everything is, all the details are correct, for example, then you don't talk about that anywhere else. You don't talk about it on your website. You don't talk about it ever on social, and your social is riddled with mistakes. That really undercuts what you're saying in your about statement. That makes people think, oh, that's aspirational. That's not really what's happening.
Agreed. So let's kind of outline a few key components that would be helpful in constructing one that isn't terrible. So I'll kind of kick it off. Like, the first thing is to kind of talk to your existing client base to understand, a little bit about why they hired you. What are the key components that drew you to them in the hiring process? That can be such an invaluable way of looking at, and it can open so many doors to what might really be the key secret sauce to your firm.
I think that's an excellent idea. And I think especially talking to people who hired you for projects that are now completed. Mm-hmm. Because what one of our clients found when they did that is that the thing they thought people were hiring for was sort of like a nice to have in the client's mind. They really didn't give it much thought. The clients actually really valued this other thing that the firm didn't even think about or realize that was something anybody noticed. So I think that's really, really important.
So I think the next thing is to really think about what it is that your firm does better than anybody else, and to make a list of those things, or to make a list of the things that you are good at as a firm.
Yeah, I would start there. And I would start with not what are you good at, what are you great at?
Yeah.
What are you great at and do you want to do more of? If you're great at a particular thing, but your firm hates doing it and it's a loss leader and it doesn't lead to better work, then maybe that's not the thing you want to showcase. But the things that you're great at that you want more of, put those on a board. And this is a brainstorming, no wrong answers time. So as many things as you can get up there that are true without stretching, great. If you don't have enough things that you're great at, then move to the good at and do that. Yep. Then look at those things and say, okay, is there an opposite to this that is reasonable? Could another firm say, we don't do this thing and still be considered a contender? So again, another really basic example. If what you're great at is always showing up to the project, no firm is going to say, we don't show up to the project. That's not what we do. So that's not going to be something that you want to focus on in your about statement. Yeah. Whittle it down to that. Then I would look at your competitor firms.
So how do you go about, you've interviewed your clients, you've made the list, and now you're kind of ready to, as they would say, put pen to paper. Mm-hmm. So what is a good formula to begin that process? That doesn't mean this is the ultimate paragraph. This is just your first attempt at writing that paragraph. What would be kind of the good formula?
So, a couple of things. And I am not saying this simply because I am a professional writer. I think it tends to be frustrating and extremely time consuming for architects to try to write these statements, even a first draft of them. And frankly, it's not the best use of the architect's time. So I would, from the outset, once you have those lists, consider hiring a professional writer to write these for you. So first thing is, what are you? And if you ever did any biology or anthropology classes, you start with, okay, we are an architecture firm. We are an architecture and urban design firm. We are a design firm. What is it that you're calling yourself? Then what kind of work do you do? And the more specific you can be, the better. If it's not based on sector, maybe it's based on type of project. Is it, do you focus on historic reuse? Do you focus on new construction? Then focus on who do you do the work for? Do you work with homeowners? Do you work with multifamily developers? Do you work with boards and leadership of schools or hospitals? Do you primarily get brought in by an owner's rep? What is that? How do you work with other people? Do you collaborate with the general contractor, or do you prefer to do your work first and then you help them source a general contractor? Do you bring an entire project team with you? You know, if they hire you, then you're going to have all the trades and subs and everything all lined up. Do you work with people who already, and this is probably more for residential homeowners, people who have their quote unquote designs already? Or do you prefer to work with them to identify what they want and get the concept from them, and then you do all the design work? And you're going to have to do all the design work anyway, but what's your tolerance for somebody saying, you know, I had these drawings done? Then talk about your process. You know, what is unique about your process? What's unique about your team? What's unique about your communication style? And then if you can, something about the impact that your work has had. So, you know, you've helped X many homeowners realize their dream. You've helped Y number of students have a better learning experience. You've saved Z number of buildings from being demolished, whatever it is. So who you are, who you serve, specifics of what you do, and then the results of what you do and how you do it. Does that help?
Absolutely. I think, you know, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I would say the big takeaway from my perspective is that, you know, you're trying to build out a document or a paragraph at least about why your firm and for this client right now. And I think that has to be such a guiding light in the sense of what you're writing. And I think you've outlined a pretty good, you know, process for doing that. In any other last takeaways?
I guess just the importance of having this, because it helps everybody, including your staff, know what they're doing, who they're doing it for, why, and to have sort of a guideline for whether what they're doing lines up with what the firm wants to be doing.
Absolutely.
So are they delivering the work the way they're supposed to? It gives leadership sort of guidance on should we take this project or not. And this statement can be edited in the future. This is not you are committing to this until, you know,
forever.
Yeah. This is where we are right now. This is what we're doing. And I think it's a really good foundation. Everything springs from this. If you have somebody doing social media for you, they need this to sort of see, okay, what should we be highlighting and how should we be talking about the projects?
And what tone of voice and what vantage point should we take on these things? Absolutely.
Exactly. So that is our positioning statement for you. We know it's difficult to write this. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. We will not be judgmental. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.